Well, one thing is for certain. Headed into this next series, the Mew Mew Kitty Cats are not going to be kidding around. If they lose this, they have to play against their competition for that 4th spot in North America. My name is Rich. I'm going to be your host. I'm joined by Zico, Supatees, and Venruki. Zico, let's just start talking about the history. Even within this tournament, M2KC match up very well against the Super Frogs.
Yeah, I mean, they've managed to knock them down and also in a previous tournament knock them out of that competition. Super Frogs compositions have been nerfed to the point where we most likely not going to see them running those Warlock-based compositions. Instead, we're going to see Chanimal and Snuts, some of the best Warlocks to ever touch a keyboard, on that DK and DH.
We're also going to see a Moonkin and a Rogue. Let's see what this can get done for the M2KC.
Yeah, definitely have to see what exactly happens, and this is what I kind of predicted from Super Frogs. Probably cleaned up their gameplay just a little bit when they played M2KC in the last time these two teams met. M2KC, they ran the Holy Paladin, Assassination Rogue, Fire Mage, and kind of bossed all over Super Frogs, sending them to the lower bracket. Super Frogs making some adaptations, bringing in the Restoration Shaman up Cubsy. But M2KC, I don't know if they predicted what was going to happen, but bringing in a balanced Druid Assassination Rogue is kind of a surprise to me.
It's a bit of a surprise, but I think they're desperate and they're trying to figure out things here in this series against the Super Frogs. If it works, they qualify. If it doesn't work, they get a 3rd chance, and they know that it doesn't work when they face Never Lucky, who is likely to play a Cleave setup and could play the identical one that has been throwing M2KC for a loop, the Demon Hunter Death Knight. So I don't really blame them for wanting to try something different here, facing the Super Frogs in their 2nd opportunity to qualify. Snuts jumping in, Imprison into Mana Rift likely, burning away that resource, the mana bar of Rubcup, to eliminate his heals later on in the fight. I'm curious as to why Cubsy went on Shaman as opposed to Restoration Druid. Maybe he was expecting some sort of Purge-based composition from M2KC, wanted to dodge that and locked in the Shaman, but potentially now opens himself up to crowd control with that Solar Beam from Jamili. Very curious to see if Jamili is able to utilize that effectively to find a kill. Good pressure on Snuts so far.
Yeah, definitely really good pressure on the Snuts. What can M2KC get done? If we look at mana right now, Cubsy has a commanding lead, but a full kidney shot on the Snuts. Jamili looking for some pressure. Chanimal all over him in this matchup. Snuts still getting a little bit low. It has the darkness as well, but we've known Snuts to not run that cover of darkness, so it's not going to be a huge lifeline for the team unless that's one of the adaptations that Super Frogs ended up picking in this matchup. Rubcup potentially looking for a drink as he sits down in cat form. If he can recover some mana, it's going to be good, but Snuts hunts him down, leaves him a nice little mana rift. Enjoy that, Rubcup.
I don't think he's going to be enjoying it. His mana now almost dwindled down to nothing, and there's really no significant pressure in their team's favor. I'm uncertain as if this composition is actually going to work for M2KC overall. They do gain the advantage of 2 Thorns, which redirects damage, but the self-sustainability of the Death Knight class and the Havoc Demon Hunter appears to be more than enough to just totally negate Thorns even in the match. So this double Druid I don't think is going to work for M2KC. Can't blame them for trying though here, as they need to find an answer for the Super Frogs. Decent damage onto Snuts this moment in time, but with Anti-Magic Zone traded out, he's likely to survive, still able to rely on Darkness for the incarnation in 30 seconds of Jamili, and I'm almost starting to wonder if double Fire Mage is their best shot. I mean, they've got Jamili and they've got Rosita. Double Fire Mage has been going pretty close with Method Orange. They beat them in the upper bracket. They went 3-2 with them in the lower brackets. The team of Easy Money playing the double Fire Mage. Maybe that's their only shot at getting to the land.
Are you saying that M2KC should open up a bakery, Sydney?
Yeah. You need some competition. It's good for you.
All right, Rubcup, Jamili, Roasty's all hovering around 50% health, and this is kind of how we expected this matchup to go. Jamili just lacks a little bit of a punch there on that Moonkin right now, but with Incarnation can get really aggressive. Snuts caught into the kidney shot, but he just has so many defensives. I mean, although the kidney shot is a little scary, it's not that scary when you have Trinket, Darkness, as well as your Blur available on that Demon Hunter. So Super Frog's looking nice and healthy. Cubsy's been doing a good job on the Restoration Shaman to keep him alive. M2KC really struggling to stay afloat in this matchup. Rubcup almost completely tapped on mana. There's been no opportunities in the game for him to drink, except potentially now. Chanimal and Snuts dash over as fast as they possibly can to deny Rubcup that precious drink.
He got basically no mana back, but there's decent pressure. Solar Beam on Cubsy. an opening maybe here for M2KC. Not finding it. Cubsy starts to stabilize as he leaves the crowd control. Roasty sets up a smoke bomb. Cubsy is going to duck into that, potentially with a Spirit Link Totem. Gladiator's Maledict avoided. I believe it was grounded by Cubsy. Nice move on his part, removing that healing absorption effect. That would have otherwise been very stressful for him to deal with. Mana surprisingly evening out, but I do think that Cubsy will go for some time on 0 even against Rubcub, with Healing Wave being so efficient. Blind. Likely we see Cubsy exchange his Gladiator's Medallion. He's waiting for Roasties to connect and use the stun, I guess, but he's waiting quite a long time. Now bashed, opts to trinket that, but now Snuts gets punished. Earthen Wall Totem from Cubsy, just in time. Snuts stays alive, and Super Frogs continue to build their advantage.
Yep, Super Frogs doing a good job, but there has been signs of life for M2KC on a Snuts. He still doesn't have a trinket available. If they can catch him in some crowd control, catch him in a kidney shot with any CC on Cubsy, it might be able to win, but they have ran out of time, I believe. I mean, look at Rubcub's mana. He's got nothing left in the tank. 2 minutes left on his Innervate. Jamili getting low. Barskin looking to deflect some of Chanimal's damage, but there's just way too much pressure from Super Frogs for Rubcub to handle at this point in the game. Potentially sitting down for a drink right now. Cubsy has to shut it down, manages to find it. Rubcub wants to keep Jamili alive. He wants to heal him, but look, there's nothing. Jamili trinkets out, throws out Renewal. That's the last thing M2KC has. And this is looking bad for M2KC. They have not found an answer for this Demon Hunter Death Knight, and it's looking like they might potentially have to go head-to-head.
Why do you think that they thought that that was the answer, Zico?
Well, they just wanted to avoid the DHDK, and I mean, they did, but I didn't really look that good. Honestly, the DHDK just seems to be the counter to the Mew Mew Kitty Cats altogether right now. It seems like they got them figured out, and the Mew Mew Kitty Cats, they remind me a lot of Change My Mind over in Europe, where they've hit a brick wall like that, and I don't know, maybe they should try out the Shadow Priest Rogue Druid, because that actually worked out well for Change My Mind.
Good point.
Yeah, they could easily do that, right? We've already seen Jamili even in this tournament on the Shadow Priest. So, Sid, maybe that is the change that comes in. Maybe Jamili does go on the Shadow Priest.
I think that's their best option out of the ones that I've seen so far from their team, and they need to figure it out. They've got another opportunity to qualify after this series, facing Never Lucky in a tiebreaker, but after that, 3 strikes, you're out. You're not going to make it to the finals, so they got to figure out something soon.
They definitely do need to figure out something soon. Otherwise, they're going to have an extra series today to figure out if they're going to land. Definitely not going to be a Sunday off this weekend for them. The Super Frogs going to be able to grab that first win. And I believe in the series where we did see that 5-game series in this tournament, it did go the other way, right, in the first game. And the blind pick was, it could be somewhat important. So at this point, it's looking like the blind pick doesn't even matter, though. As you guys have mentioned, no answer. It doesn't matter if you have full information or not, Fen.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it just seems like Super Frogs, they have an answer. They just saw exactly what the boys were able to do to M2KC, and M2KC at this point, they got to be pulling out their hairs. They just lost 4 games in a row to this particular composition. I don't know if they have anything else prepared. It doesn't seem like the Moonkin Restoration Druid really is their best answer. Potentially bringing in the Shadow Priest of Jamili, trying to take a page from Change My Mind, but it just seemed like that was one of those matchups where Acro, Valet, and Minpoike, they played out of their minds. And is Rubcub going to be able to play as well as Minpoike? Is Jamili on the Shadow Priest going to be as good as Valet? These are questions I'm not exactly sure.
You said that at this point that they may be pulling out their hair, right? And Sid, I'm just curious, do you feel the same way? Do you think that might be what they're going through?
I mean, I wouldn't have experience in that at all, Rich, so I wouldn't know.
Oh, okay, never mind. We misunderstood how we got to a moment like this, and the Mew Mew Kitty Cats probably do feel like they're in a similar situation. You had everything going for you. You had a great bracket. You managed to go the distance. You just need to win one more game to guarantee that you go to the LAN. And Zico, it's looking like that's starting to slip out of their reach already, and we've only seen a single game Reno in this series. Reno.
I think that we need to see one of 2 things happen. Either they go back to the Fire Mage Rogue Druid, the Fire Mage Rogue Pala, and they try to win with that. It's an unfavored matchup, but that's their main, so that would be going for the comfort. Or they could open up their own bakery.
They should do that.
I think they should. They have Rosita Jones, like, They have Rosita Jones.
Rosita Jones is fantastic. Jamili on the mage, probably going to look better than what we just saw. I think the biggest question is, do you need to do it with the druid? I think if you find yourself in a situation where you could manage to do it with the paladin, it would be fantastic, just because Roka would be comfortable, but it doesn't really work like that. I feel like do you think you could maybe try to do that?
You could try, but I think it's much better with the restoration.
Yeah, I think.
Or a Mistweaver Monk.
Yeah, I think it would fall apart potentially with a paladin.
I think we're going to see Fire Mage Rogue Holy Pala based on this comp.
Cubsy going to try to put on that pressure nice and early.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen, but I feel like Cubsy did the intelligent thing. We saw him be the main pressure point when he was on his Restoration Druid, kind of vulnerable, just sitting in that bear form for a really extended period of time, but on the Restoration Shaman, I think he can keep himself alive. If he can get into Ghost Wolf and kite around with all the different talents and Azerite traits that Shaman have available to them, I think if he's the only weak link on their team, he should be able to keep himself up.
I think that is a very fair assumption here. And now as we do look at the Mew Kitty Cats, are we going to see the greatest of pies be cooked up?
Nope.
Nope. They're going to go back to pure comfort.
If they went to Hook Point and opened up a bakery, that double Fire Mage, for anyone that doesn't know the inside joke, that would be a disaster.
Is it going to be more...
It's not a good location to open up a bakery. Not a lot of customers there.
Not a lot of foot traffic.
Is it really more comforting than pie?
What'd you say?
Is Rogue Mage really more comforting than pie?
That's pretty much my question here. Is it? I mean, you're going to... This is just... It's a scary day to be the Mew Kitty Cats. I feel like at this point, you're actually already thinking about your matchup against potentially going...
Which is probably the same.
Which is probably the same. I like...
Yeah, Zach can play Demon Hunter. Toledo Death Knight.
If M2KC loses 3 series back-to-back to this same composition, that is a sad day for them.
I wonder what Jamili's going to say. I do think that's probably what happens at this point. You know, a little while ago, I was saying I thought the Mew Kitty Cats, always believing in the underdog, always believing in RC, man. Always believing in RC. I think RubCub is one of those players that will continually just surprise you. Even when he is down and out, he finds opportunity. But at this point, it's getting very dark for this Paladin. The sun looks like it's going to be going down. And it looks like it is time for the bat to rise. Snut's going to be on the Demon Hunter. Will this be the darkness that overtakes North America?
Will RubCub make it to the light at the end of the tunnel as he faces down Death Knight after Death Knight after Death Knights here today to qualify? They had 3 shots to make it to the spring finals. They're already down 1, and they're looking like they may be down the second, and only with 1 left. It is getting grim. It is getting dark, but RubCub continues to shine bright. Perhaps the X factor for M2KC to go all of the way.
True beacon of light for Holy Paladins everywhere, but so far it hasn't been looking good for M2KC. Not a lot of pressure early on. They look for early crowd control into Cubsy, but it got denied by Chanimal. Now full blind being thrown out. Cubsy opting to just sit that. There's been no real offense committed. No Vendetta. Snuts just comfortably sits that. Anti-Magic Zone trades out, but there wasn't really anything used. Roasty didn't commit the Vendetta. Normally you want to see the Vendetta traded with the Anti-Magic Zone to really reduce the Rogue Mage burst capabilities. It lines up quite well, and now Super Frogs won't have that available.
Good teamwork from Snuts, getting Cubsy out of the crowd control. Roasty's pressured, Jamili pressured, RubCub getting mana rifted, and Super Frogs continue to develop that advantage. There has been more pressure on Snuts, though, than in the past. This could be attributed to the fact that Cubsy is playing Shaman and not Druid. On Shaman, he is much more exposed to crowd control and interrupts, and M2KC are capitalizing on that, and that could be an opening for them overall. RubCub moves in. He needs to deal with the grounding totem. Not able to get the Hammer of Justice on that grounding totem, I do believe, so RubCub needs to move forward and secure that for the team. He mounts up, lands the stun, crowd control on all 3 members. Jamili looks for follow-up, gets denied by Smexen. Great denial, but Jamili goes for follow-up, gets denied again by Chanimal, sorry. We've seen so many Death Knights here today. Chanimal with great interception, totally shutting Jamili out.
Yeah, he's been doing a really good job with not only his Death Grip, with his Mind Freeze, with his Pet Control. RubCub already around 50% mana. Cubsy not too far ahead, but with Mana Rift in favor of Super Frogs. M2KC, they're falling behind. Snuts once again looks for a Mana Rift. RubCub trinkets out. Smoke Bomb attempt onto Snuts. He has no trinket. Hammer of Justice onto Cubsy. He's going to have to trinket out. Blur gets used by Snuts because he's looking to dance around, try to keep himself alive. Reverse Magic gets used once again on the Cubsy to free him from any type of crowd control. Super Frogs completely stabilizing the situation, although Jamili lands a nice lockout onto Cubsy. It doesn't seem to matter too much. The damage has just fallen off for M2KC.
Cubsy is honestly looking a little bit shaky here in game number 2, getting interrupted multiple times. Fortunately, Chanimal has been there to back up the team, really putting it on his shoulders to carry it all the way through. With Avenging Wrath activated, Rubcub is likely to recover, but needs to get out of crowd control and avoid interrupts. Goes for a Holy Light, gets it. No interrupt there landed. We do see crowd control initiated on the 2 members. Snuts is isolated. What's he going to do under this situation and pressure? No Gliders Medallion for 15, 14 seconds. Snuts holds on by a thread. Cubsy's still crowd controlled. Hammer of Justice. No reverse magic. Snuts manages to stay alive despite all of that crowd control, holding out for the Spirit Link Totem, which now will save the day, and Rubcub's mana is not looking good right now. How much longer can he keep this light going is the question. It's a battle for qualifications. It's a battle for a spot at the spring finals. Can they go all the way, or are they just going to get knocked out by one composition 3 times in a row? That would be just total domination.
That would be devastating for the team of M2KC. Rubcub, 40% health, 10% mana. Jamili rotting down, Roasty as well. What is Rubcub going to do? Luckily for him, he's managed to hold on to his Divine Shield as well as the Ultimate Sacrifice. Divine Shield gets traded out. Now Rubcub, with no defensive cooldowns besides that Ultimate Sacrifice, he's really vulnerable. If Snuts and Chanimal can make their way on top of this Holy Paladin, it's going to be difficult for him to survive. Hammer of Justice lands on a Cubsy. Big all-in attempt onto Snuts. Anti-Magic Zone trades. Chanimal backing Snuts up as Cubsy couldn't heal him. He can deny a lot of the damage. Darkness trades out as well. Super Frogs, they realize they're at the finish line. They just need a bit more damage, a bit more time. They're going to be putting up the 2nd point in this series.
It's looking good for the Super Frogs here as Rubcub's totally tapped out. Jamili holds on by a thread. Can they somehow pull it together with one big push? It's unlikely at this point. There's so much defense available. All 3 members in trouble. This is looking like a triple kill. 6 seconds away for Rubcub to be able to stabilize. 4 seconds away. Jamili ice blocks. Rubcub's crowd controlled. He now has Avenging Wrath. Perhaps Rubcub can bounce his team back from the brink. Avenging Wrath popped. He's still in trouble, low on health, gets one big heal. Somehow pops his team back into the fight for now, giving them a couple more opportunities to battle it out, but it's still just bittersweet.
Yeah, Roasties does have his Vanish if he needs it, but he's caught into a stun. Can they take him down? Jamili with no Cauterize, no Ice Block, activates the Temporal Shield, but Rubcub just no mana left. Full sap on the Cubsy, though. There's a stun on the Rubcub. Is there an attempt here on the Snuff? If he gets stunned, he could ultimately fall. Can M2KC turn this around? Full Ring of Frost into Polymorph on the Cubsy. But Rubcub, Jamili, and Roasties all just rotting down so low. I think it's unlikely they can take down Snuff. Chanimal just needs a little bit more damage onto Rubcub, but he's just ignoring him, just going after Jamili, playing the safe strategy. He knows he's going to eventually fall, and what is M2KC going to do?
Probably lose.
I mean, yeah, but I'm saying, what can they do in the future?
What can they do in the future?
In their next series.
In their next series. Do you think the Super Frogs are going to leap away with this one, Zico?
Yeah, I think they're going to leap away with this one. Right now, this is kind of the question that we had at the beginning of the series. Have they been practicing their Demon Hunter DK since yesterday a little bit more? Maybe polished it a little bit. We saw a lot of overlaps happen when they played this matchup yesterday. Today, though, they look like a much more coordinated team defensively, and we didn't really see any overlaps. We didn't see too many of those defensives that they all have overlap. And also, we see Cubsy on that Resto Shaman, and I gotta say, Cubsy on that Resto Shaman is looking good. It gives them that extra mana, and of course, it removes the Druid from being that weak link for their team. So having that Shaman instead with the Pack Spirit and the Ghost Wolf traits, that's going to be helping them out a lot in terms of what targets M2KC can go after, and I think that's a big factor in this matchup.
It's a pretty tough position to be in when you're kind of watching a team, and the main thing is during that race at the end of the game, you're trying to figure out who is going to go down. Usually it's one player from each side. In this scenario, you look over at the Mew Mew Kitty Cats and you're like, well, which one of them is going to drop first? All of the pressure is just so focused on them. It's going to be a tough series for them to navigate out of. There's only potentially one game left, and that means we may have a tiebreaker in the NA. Just one more game may set up the revenge match. Colo versus Jamili. Colo and Jamili may be playing the same compositions as well that we do see here, except it is the Super Frogs right now trying to put on the hurt and trying to find one more victory with a composition that the Mew Kitty Cats have not been able to answer at all. And what is it about this composition that makes it so hard for the Mew Kitty Cats to strike back?
Well, the Mew Kitty Cats, it's really hard for them to pounce back because of all the defense available on the DHDK means that you can't really go after the healer, and it also means that you are on the clock, and this is interesting. So they're taking a page out of the Frogs book and using it against them. It's very, very nice. I like this. 12 Run Arena, they're going to have a lot of crowd control for Snuts, but at the same time, Chanimal, he knows how this comp works better than anyone. He should be able to know how to kind of diffuse it as well.
And I think he should know exactly how to just make life miserable for Rosita Jones, right? Rosita Jones has been a fantastic multi-classer, and it's no knock on him at all. It's just you're going up against two Warlocks right now. The two people that probably know how to make your life the worst, Snuts and Chanimal, going to be shutting down someone who is not as good at Destruction Warlock as they are. I think that every time we've seen Rosita play something, he's impressed us and we go, oh yeah, he could easily main this all of the time. But is Rosita a main Warlock right now? The answer is simply going to be no, and he's going against Snuts and Chanimal.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things when you are one of those players that can multi-class a lot, you can kind of use your own class's weaknesses against them, especially if you're going up against them. That's what you're kind of saying. Chanimal and Snuts, they have a lot of experience playing the Destruction Warlock, playing Warlock in general, so they're going to know what is annoying for Rosita Jones to deal with. What do they need to interrupt? At what times do they need to interrupt? When do they need to run away? When do they need to play aggressive? When can they push Rosita Jones over with all the defensives that he has available? And that's definitely something that could potentially work in Super Frog's favor. But on this large map, I think M2KC, they actually impressed me. They set this matchup up quite nicely, and I think in theory they should be winning.
And this is Rosita here, guys. The amount of upsets that, regardless of team, Rosita Jones has been able to pull off is astronomical. Can he get it done here and qualify his new team, a team that he was just picked up for? Can he qualify him to land?
We're about to find out here as M2KC scramble to find a composition to beat the Cleaves. If it manages to even get a game off the Super Frogs, perhaps it is an answer for Never Lucky, because Never Lucky is pretty much all Cleaves. Although we did see some Boomkin Elemental Shaman, perhaps they've polished that up as well. It's not entirely certain as to who will be the 4th spot for North America, because M2KC is having such a hard time with this Demon Hunter Death Knight composition throughout the day, and likely to face it a 3rd time, with that 3rd time being the last opportunity for them to qualify for that 4th spot. If they are unable to overcome the Super Frogs here, reverse sweep, and then unable to defeat Never Lucky, the grudge match against Colo, it will then be Never Lucky taking the 4th and final spot at the Spring Finals LAN later this year. Huge opportunity at Big Cash, huge opportunity to qualify all the way to the World Finals directly from that tournament. There is a lot on the line here in these next 2 series for M2KC, assuming that they lose. So you do not want to go anywhere. You definitely want to be telling your friends, getting them in here, because this is a battle to decide the best of North America and who will represent them in the Spring Finals.
Look at this. It's Dark Soul. It's Icy Veins. You know what Snuts says? He leaps away, uses the Metamorphosis, completely defensive. Cubsy was caught in crowd control. Snuts is just going to run away. He's going to avoid damage at all costs. Now he can get aggressive. That threat is no longer there from M2KC, and you can tell Super Frogs, they have a game plan. They know how to beat this composition. Can they execute? That's a different question. Rosita Jones is actually playing the Demonic Circle, so he's not going to have access to that Mortal Coil to really set himself up for damage, but he can, of course, use that to portal away if Chanimal and Snuts are getting a little bit too comfortable.
Rosita trying to set up some burst, crowd control on Cubsy with Polymorphs, but just no damage at this moment in time. Mana Rift establishing a lead. I'm actually curious if the Super Frogs win this. They are heavily disadvantaged in the matchup. I mean, this is a composition that the Super Frogs typically run into Cleaves and just totally shut them out. now they may actually be able to reverse the pressure, and it just goes to show that it is not just a matter of locking in the counter. You also need to have your reps, you also need to have your practice and your strategy on point. So perhaps this composition won't work for M2KC. The pressure has been quite high for the Super Frogs throughout. Cubsy's mana maintains at a healthy margin. That polymorph unfortunately breaking for Jamili. That could have been an opportunity, and now that is lost. Perhaps though the Destruction Warlock, this could be a warm-up for their last shot against Never Lucky. They do have decent pressure on Snuts now at this moment, with Jamili leading the charge.
Yeah, Jamili actually traded an ice block to get that earlier polymorph as well, and it breaking is definitely not ideal for their team. Jamili could potentially be a target. He hasn't activated the cold snap just yet, so that could be something that potentially bites him a little bit later on in this game. If he gets pressure down in 3 minutes, then has to use cold snap, all of a sudden he's not going to have that third ice block for a really long time. So definitely look at those cooldowns, see when Jamili decides to pull the trigger with that. Now Cubsy in a polymorph, fear spam onto Snuts, and this is normally what we see, the strategy for M2KC. It's all about Jamili spamming out polymorphs, Rosita Jones spamming out fear, allowing RubCub to create some distance on the map where he can sit down and try to get a drink, but he hasn't really found that opportunity so far in this particular match.
Cubsy getting caught in midfield, but now should easily recover at the pillar. Both Cubsy and the Ghoul of Chanimal hunting RubCub down to keep him in combat, deny him from drinks and regenerating mana, and if he does run out of mana, Rosita Jones will be in trouble. They're on match point. They have to overcome all odds and win 3 games in a row against the Super Frogs. If they are unable to do so, they will then need to defeat Never Lucky. Fortunately for them, though, Never Lucky is, I would say, more limited in their composition pools than that of Super Frogs, and perhaps if they can polish up this Destruction Warlock Frost Mage, that could be a good option to take Never Lucky out later on in the day. But of course, if they are eliminated here, they will also lose out on the opportunity of accumulating more points to potentially fall back on that as a qualification method for the World Finals later this year. Chanimal's getting blasted in midfield, nether warded on his Asphyxiate. Nice moves from Rosita.
Yeah, definitely an excellent job. Snuts on his mount right now, looking to shut down the drink of RubCub, but I think he's going to get a complete reset on his mana. Good control here from M2KC as both teams have completely stabilized, basically a full reset at this point. The only thing that's not going to be resetting is that timer marching towards dampening. Chanimal, of course, will be a very vulnerable target later on. Right now, he can Death Strike. Although he is taking quite a bit of burst and Cubsy is caught in crowd control, maybe he could fall. Anti-Magic Zone is used. Like I was saying, Chanimal, if we move on late enough in dampening, Death Strike, all of a sudden it doesn't heal for as much, and that's where Jamili and Rosita Jones can really rip in and put in a lot of pressure.
Another important factor to calculate in here is the Azurite traits for the Demon Hunter, the Burning Soul on the 3rd ring of Azurite traits. This then allows you a huge absorption effect when you cast Consume Magic, which dispels a beneficial magic and then gives it to you, and then also gives you a 40,000 absorb. That's a pretty big absorb, so Snuts can frequently access that on top of his Soul Leech healing to then re-stabilize and stay in the fight. This is why we see Demon Hunters be so durable, so they focus on just surviving, burning down the mana of the opposing healer, and then jumping in with I-Beams and Metamorphosis to deal out huge amounts of burst damage. Here currently with I-Beam activated, going after RubCub. So far, RubCub did a good job earlier on finding a drink, but he will need to look for those frequently. Otherwise, the Super Frogs may be able to just close this out here and now on Game 3.
Yeah, RubCub crosses the map once again, looking for another drink, another reset of his mana. But here's one of the things as well, a potential win condition for Super Frogs later on in dampening is they could just sit on Rosita Jones. Although he has the Demonic Circle, the Death Knight, and the Demon Hunter have a high amount of mobility, they're not going to be as easily kited. Chanimal getting really low. Cubsy has to trade out the Spearling. Told him that was great burst from Jamili and Rosita Jones. Excellently done. Jamili finds another polymorph onto Cubsy. What are they going to be able to get done? Chanimal gets totally topped off in this situation, but maybe Snuts and Chanimal need to start thinking twice before getting so aggressive.
Rosita's Demonic Circle positioning is atrocious. He just Demonic Circled 2 inches, now has to trade Unending Resolve. It's still not in a good position. He needs to take better advantage of the Demonic Circle. He's now burned through a lot of cooldowns. Chanimal has managed to steal a polymorph from Jamili, possibly securing the match and securing the series. Huge damage Kill denied for now, thanks to Rubcub in those final seconds, as a huge heal suddenly stabilizes Rosita back to full HP. 12% dampening, etching closer to that magic 40% number to kill an Unholy Death Knight. We do see Cubsy currently in a polymorph with Chanimal at half health, but anti-magic shield should be more than enough to absorb this attack unless Jamili can continue the chain. I believe Jamili, is he stolen on the polymorph by Chanimal? About to find out. Stun into Mana Rift. I do believe that Jamili fake cast the Dark Simulacrum. Now that should allow him more opportunity to get crowd control, but Rubcub's totally burnt on mana. Cubsy actually gets out of a fear. I mean, I guess Chanimal's in a bit of danger, but usually you would see a Restoration Shaman trinket and combo that with a defensive ability. Just trinketing and not doing anything with it is a little bit strange on Cubsy's part. Potentially an opening for M2KC, but they need to set up Rubcub for a drink. They do not have good control of Chanimal's Ghoul. They should be Frost Novaing or snaring it, at least helping Rubcub a bit with it. He's going to Entangling Roots it and try and line of sight if Rubcub can drop combat. Chanimal gets blasted. One Chaos Bolt, Ray of Frost from Jamili. No backup. Rosita can't get in line of sight. This is where I would have liked to seen Rosita reposition his Demonic Circle. He could have even portaled right on top of Chanimal there, maybe forced a kill with it. The Demonic Circle positioning is definitely not the best here from Rosita. Placing it in the middle of the... Why is it in the middle of the map?
Well, I mean, it's next to the gateway, which is good.
Yeah,
so at least portal to the gateway.
You're going to get Death Gripped instantly.
Yeah, I mean... I think it's difficult for a Destruction Warlock to really move to an ideal position with Chains of Ice on him to relay his port. It's not exactly the same as a Windwalker Monk, but yeah, like you said, not necessarily the greatest position to be in. Snuts now taking a little bit of pressure as he still chases down Rubcub.
Oh, huge hit from Jamili. This could be it for M2KC to stay alive in the tournament. We may see a mirror between these teams if they can manage to pull it off. Snuts drops Darkness, hovering in that to stay alive, and now has managed to recover. Rubcub has stabilized some mana. Cubsy and Poly, Snuts breaks him out. Good teamwork between this duo. Rosita Jones with no unending resolve for quite some time, and Ironbark will be fading shortly. That could be an opportunity for Jamili. He's got Icy Veins rolling, Dark Soul available. Rosita portaling into midfield. He will now not likely be able to escape, and he doesn't have defense for some time, and I think the Demonic Circle placement could maybe potentially net Super Frogs a kill momentarily.
Yep, I mean, definitely as we get higher in dampening, it's going to be a lot of pressure on Rosita Jones, but in the meantime, Snuts has to run away. Full polymorph on Cubsy. He's been left behind in midfield, but Snuts out of line of sight. There's not a great target right now for Rosita Jones and Jamili. Who are they going to turn their attention to? Chanimal in midfield, almost at that 40% mark where Demon Hunter's healing and Death Knight's healing just really isn't that great, but Rubcub's almost completely tapped on mana. This is a tense moment for both teams. Rosita Jones once again has to trade out the Unending Resolve. He just hasn't been using his Demonic Circle. He hasn't been kiting at all. He's looking for pure offense in this situation, but Super Frogs, they have the tools they need to survive.
They've been stalling Rosita Jones out on this Chaos Bolt for some time. Rubcub's trying to drink. Rosita pulls away, relays the Demonic Circle at the pillar. Very important so that he can go out of line of sight of Death Grip. Now he needs to reposition back in center field, but he can't line of sight Rubcub's Nourishes. Imprisoned at low health on the Nourish heal. Great disruption. Cubsy, though, is polymorphed and Chanimal is being pressured. Will he fall? It's match point. If Rosita Jones falls here, they've only got one more opportunity against Never Lucky to qualify. It might just have to be that. Chanimal is low on health. Anti-magic zone protecting him for now. Rosita's Dark Soul is faded. Infernal's up in 4. Those Infernals need to cook up a win. Otherwise, I'm not sure if Rosita is going to be able to stay alive much longer.
Yeah, Rubcub throws out the Thorns, making it difficult for Chanimal and Snuts to really push through, but they don't care. They're going for it. Cubsy caught into a full fear. Chanimal could be in some trouble, but he's trying to dip out of line of sight, manages to do so. Rosita Jones using the Demonic Circle, trying to bait Snuts and Chanimal in the open, but Rosita's in a lot of trouble. Cubsy has any purges, he could easily fall, but a nice polymorph from Jamili slows down the offensive push of Super Frogs. Chanimal getting low, also stuck in midfield. Dark Simulacrum is used. Did he get a polymorph? We'll definitely have to see. Rubcub's sitting in cap form right now, potentially wanting to avoid that, but Chanimal in so much trouble. Cubsy with no trinket. If he gets crowd control, won't have access to Spirit Link. He needs the Spirit Link. He has to drop it. He does manage to get it and land it, keep Chanimal alive, but both Snuts and Chanimal are so dangerous.
No defense for 10 seconds. They're on match point to potentially qualify. They cannot afford to fall here. Rosita tries to counter-aggress. The triple Shadow Fury into Polymorph. Great setup by M2KC, but where is the damage? Rosita's being disrupted. He can't get that final Chaos Bolt. He's falling further behind. He demonic circles away. Gates to center field. Frost Nova by Jamili buys him a couple of extra seconds. Nether Ward on the Gladiator's Maledict, avoiding one, but a second is incoming. Rosita's still in trouble. Rubcub is rotting down effectively to nothing in the back line. He has to heal himself with no mana, but they survived long enough. We're at that 40% mark. Chanimal's in trouble. His Cubsy is totally tapped on mana. Grounding Totem, his last line of defense, but he's stunned up. He can't access that. Jamili tearing in with Icy Veins, and it looks like M2KC are going to stay alive potentially. Rosita equally in trouble. Chanimal grips him into the double stun. Jamili ice blocks it for the kill. He knows it's all or nothing at this point. Gets the poly, but Rosita falls first. Potentially Chanimal cross-killed. He's on 1%. Is he going to go down? Death Strike. He holds on for a second. Cubsy keeps him up. Jamili can't net the... What? Maybe. Rubcub moves in. He's got Feral Affinity. Is it going to be enough?
Oh no, Chanimal staying alive.
Kidding me right now?
Jamili, but no, Rubcub falls. How is Chanimal still alive? This is ridiculous, but Super Frogs manages to do it on a bad map against an unideal composition, still advancing to the grand finals.
Kudos, though, to the Mew Kitty Cats for trying to switch it up there. They needed to try something. I think that was one of the better games that they did have in this series. I'm waiting for confirmation. I'm pretty sure we are going to have a rematch tonight. Or not a rematch tonight, sorry, what's it called? A tiebreaker match tonight. I'm going to wait for confirmation for that when we actually do get the details, but we definitely do know what's going to be happening now in the grand final.
Yep, now we are gonna go to the grand final. Super Frogs versus the boys. El Clasico here in North America. As far as this spring season has been concerned, these two teams are the number 1 and number 2 teams in the point standing. They're battling it out for the amount of points for the rest of the year, and of course they want to be getting into that Springland with that last cup win under their belt. Super Frogs, of course, they've had a tricky road to actually get there. The Destro Warlock nerfs hasn't been really too kind for them, and the boys, their composition has been looking pretty good. Not really too affected. We're gonna see now though, is that Mage Lock Druid going to be what can net them the win against the boys in the next series? And then after that, we should have a tiebreaker situation as well with Never Lucky and Mew Kitty Cats.
Yeah, we're gonna have confirmation on that after we do return. The main thing that we need to focus on right now is going to be the grand final. This is the last one for EU in this season. Cup number 6. 6 weeks since week really 1. These are the two teams that jumped off the page. I think they have definitely lived up to the hype as well, Ben.
I mean, they're consistently getting results. That's the thing. Super Frogs, they've been knocked down to the lower bracket, but they always manage to march their way back up. We've seen the boys, they've been really impressive, primarily playing that Windwalker Death Knight composition. Smexon, to be honest, has stepped up in a huge way for their team. We've known him always as a tremendous arms warrior, a fury warrior, also coming in on the enhancement and elemental shaman, but now on this Death Knight, he seems to have really practiced and prepared it, and I think it's one of the main reasons why the boys has found so much success throughout these last 6 cups. And like you said, this is just a battle of the Titans of North America in the upper bracket, or in the finals.
Smexon is, I think Smexon's one of the best examples of something that we've talked about throughout the entire year in North America, and that is players finding finally the right team for them. The teams make the most sense. The rosters in North America make the most sense. Smexon, we have always seen him perform. We have always known what he's capable of. He's one of the smartest players as well, able to pick up so many different things, and now he finally figures out the team, and that's the story of both of these squads that are going to be going head-to-head in our last grand final. Who do you think takes it? Is it going to be the Super Frogs? You can vote with that hashtag SF. Or do you think it's going to be the boys? You can vote with that hashtag TB. Vote right now. We want to see what you think. When we return, we're going to give you a full update on everything because we still need to make sure we know who is going to be going to the land for North America in that 4th spot, because the top 3 teams have proven themselves time and time again. It is going to be the Super Frogs, it is going to be the boys, and it is going to be Method Orange, and 2 of those teams will be going head-to-head right after this.